Well, hello YouTube. So today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the INTJ ENFP vicious cycle and all the aspects to it. So typically an INTJ ENFP relationship, if both parties are healthy, it's usually just an ideal match, in my opinion. It's great, especially in a work environment relationship. I think that's where it's best. But things go really well. We tend to see each other's perspectives. Everything's great. We give each other enough time. We don't really need much from each other. It just, everything seems to go without a hitch. But every once in a while, about 3 to 6 months to a year, depending on how the health levels, 3 months if you're unhealthy, 6 months if you're moderately healthy, and a year if you are super healthy and you guys are just like, especially in a new relationship, and you guys think that the ENFP INTJ, or you don't even know about the ENFP INTJ vicious cycle, but if you did, you would think it was a myth and that you were above it and that it didn't pertain to you because you guys are just perfect and you're disillusioned. But when you've been in an ENFP INTJ relationship, you know that this is a cycle that you can get into quite often, but it's just long enough that you almost forget about it until it happens, and then after you fight, you're like, oh my word, that's what it was. But unfortunately, you can't save yourself from it while you're in it. So, okay. So what happens with this dynamic is that we start off, everything's great. And then the INTJ starts needing probably more introvert time and starts pulling away, starts becoming obsessed with things, starts becoming more self-absorbed and consumed with what they're thinking about. And the ENFP starts feeling like they're pulling away. They can start feeling this. And the INTJ becomes very project-oriented and isolates themselves and starts really just consumed with something, but that's not involved with the ENFP and does not involve the ENFP in it. If they did, this probably wouldn't happen, and that's the reason why it doesn't happen all the other times. So, and to the ENFP, it feels like this is unfair because we've been promised all these things in a relationship at the beginning of the relationship by the INTJ, when INTJ was more idealistic about the relationship because it was more about the possibilities than the realities of it. And they were super excited and wanted an ENFP really, 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 really badly, but not realizing how high maintenance it can be, and how at the beginning of the relationship they're bantering back and forth and it's magnetic and it's great, but then how they need more energy and they can't sustain that level of banter and that the ENFP can. So they can't keep pace forever like they think that they can. And so the ENFP starts feeling them withdrawal, and they start needing more attention because they realize that they feel like they're losing their touch. They feel like the INTJ is pulling away. They don't know why. They just want more time. So they start hugging and start smothering, and they start needing more attention and craving more attention and trying to interject themselves back into the INTJ's good graces because they didn't know what they've done wrong, and they just want back in. And the INTJ, who's needing obviously space for whatever reason, if they're sorting out feelings, I don't know, but for whatever reasons, they need more space. Well, the ENFP starts smothering them, so then they start saying, and because the INTJ doesn't hug them, they're hugging the INTJ. They start, it's not working the way that they think. It's not an intended hug, so they're smothering them, but it's still not enough. Because they're not being given love, they're taking love. And so it starts feeling inauthentic, and the INTJ starts blaming the ENFP that they're needing too much information or too much attention, which the ENFP knows that they are, but they don't know why. Because they were fine before, and they're pretty low maintenance when things are good. So they don't know why they're reacting the way they are in defense. And the INTJ blames them for needing too much attention, and they start distancing themselves and saying that they're overly emotional, and rejects them and makes them feel like it's all in their mind. And so the ENFP pulls back out of respect, but also to see if the INTJ really does love them. So they pull back, and it's a test, but the INTJ doesn't know that they're being tested. So they pull back, and they're like, okay, we'll see how long it takes for him to initiate. I want to see if this is in my head. I won't be high maintenance. If he says he'll initiate, we'll see. So they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they're getting angrier and angrier and angrier about the situation. And the INTJ is completely clueless to it. The ENFP is starting to feel now into unloved and unwanted, and they're starting to think that maybe this whole relationship isn't working out the way that they thought, because it's been a while. So, and the INTJ is fine because they're getting everything that they want there, so they have no understanding of this pattern. They're like, okay, we're good. And the ENFP starts nitpicking because out of frustration, the things that they typically could have let go in the past, they can no longer let go. So, because usually ENFPs hate nitpicking, and they hate being nitpicked at, and they hate being criticized. So they start just criticizing and start saying, oh, just out of frustration. And then the INTJ is like, what is going on? Why are you being so mean? What's the deal? Because the ENFP is proving that the things that INTJs do annoy us too. We just let it go. And we don't want to talk about how we feel unloved and hurt by what they're doing, because that's showing that we need them more than they need us, and that's kind of a hard truth for us to accept. So we start talking about all the things that we can, that all the things that bug us that aren't feeling based, and just no longer giving the grace that we typically would. And then the INTJ starts blaming it on PMS. And then we start getting like ticked off, because it's like, okay, yeah, that's the only reason why it could be. And then we end up getting into a huge fight, and we both are able to articulate what's going on, and we finally communicate in a way that we haven't been, and we both find blame that we haven't accepted, and we've been neglecting the other one in certain ways, and we hash it all out. And, oh, I forget to say that before this, the ENFP blows up and blames the INTJ for something, and then that's what starts the fight. And then they come back, apologize, and then we're able to work it all through. And that right there is the ENFP INTJ vicious cycle. So, happens every 3 months. If you're toxic, if either party is toxic, or both, then 6 months if you guys are moderately healthy and things are, pretty good, but you're talking about factoring in finances, stresses from life. And then a year if everything is blissful and nothing is going wrong. So that is the ENFP INTJ vicious cycle. Now, I had a fight with my husband on Valentine's Day, and I was kind of mimicked that, but I realized I thought I was in the vicious cycle, and maybe that's why I was angry. But come to find out, it was because my kids have been getting on me a lot, and where I'm just feeling very isolated and ready to move on to the next job site. And I'm putting too much pressure on my INTJ to make up for things that he can't. And I was blaming him wrongfully, and just kind of saying maybe it's because he's not loving me enough, but really it's the pressures of raising teenagers and children, and them needing so much for me, and me just needing to get out of the monotony of life. And so I was putting too much pressure on him, and so it kind of mimicked some of the problems of the vicious cycle. But Anyways, I figured I would share this video. I know how. I'm creating a program right now on how to stop the vicious cycle, because I know how to stop it. And for INTJs to be able to manufacture affection, but in an authentic way that would work. I've thought about, so I am coming up with some of these systems that help. And so if you would like some of that knowledge, subscribe, and like my page and whatever that everyone else on YouTube says about all that stuff. And tell me, comment and tell me that you're interested, and give me your email address, and I will email it to you when it comes out. So thank you all for listening to me, and I hope this was helpful to you.